Android Studio provides code templates that you can use to create new app modules, activities, or other Android project components. These templates are accessible by right-clicking in the project window and can also be found in the new module and new project wizards. Since Android Studio 4.0, templates have had a major overhaul. In previous versions, a template consisted in different FTL files containing the code to be generated, a globals file with common variables, and a template XML file that defined the UI of the wizard. All these files were used as inputs into a recipe XML file that contained the logic to generate the code. From Android Studio 4.0, templates now heavily rely on Kotlin. The code to be generated is now created in Kotlin, and the template defining the wizard UI uses a new Kotlin DSL. The recipe is now written using another Kotlin DSL using recipe executors, which generates the code. The other big difference is that before, you could find these templates in the Android Studio directory, and you could easily add your own. However, the new system is baked in the code, so adding new templates is not as simple as creating your own and paste it in the correct Android Studio folder. Let's now create a new template that will generate a new activity and offer our users the option of adding the Hill dependencies to Gradle. We first create a new package that will contain our new recipe. Inside, we will structure our files as if they were in an app, just so we can better understand where we want these files to be generated. We begin with the code for our custom activity in Kotlin. This will be a simple method that will return the Kotlin generated code for our activity. We will need the name of the activity class, a boolean that we'll use to generate a layout only if it's true, a layout name, a package name, and another boolean in case our users want to use Android X. This method returns a string containing the code of the activity, so we begin by adding the package to the top of the file, and we can also use the helper method escape Kotlin identifier to escape any specific Kotlin keywords. We then move on to the imports. We will need to import app-compat activity, but rather than directly adding the import, we can use another helper method called getMaterialComponentName and pass the useAndroidX boolean to it. This method takes the normal import, and if useAndroidX is true, it tries to replace it with its AndroidX equivalent. The rest of the code is quite straightforward, but we will use another helper method called renderIf. In this case, we only want to set content view if generate layout is true, so we can take advantage of this method to do that for us. Also notice that we can struct any specific code into its own variable or method to have a much more readable code. Kotlin is a great language, but maybe our users are still using Java, so we're going to give them the opportunity to select between Kotlin and Java. To do that, we're going to need to transform this code into Java. Following the same approach, we create a new Kotlin file called custom_activity_java, paste our Kotlin code there, and transform the string to be returned into Java code. We now have to add our activity to the manifest file, so let's create a Kotlin file that will take care of it. For this method, we will also need the activity class, one boolean in case this activity is part of a library project, another boolean if our users want to use the activity as the default one, and the package name. As before, we write the code that will go in the manifest, but the big difference here is that later on, we will use a helper method to merge this file into any existing manifest file. The way that works is that we need to define the basic XML tags so the merger tool can use them to identify how our code will be merged into the existing manifest. If the manifest file didn't exist, then our code will be fully generated. There is another helper method we're using here that will add a specific intent filter depending if the activity is part of a library or not, and if it should be a launcher. This is all the code that we will generate in our template. If you want to add any extra files like layouts, etc., you just have to follow the same pattern.